Now that you've seen how I manage my monthly paycheck, the budgeting, the fixed expenses, the savings, naturally, the next step is investing. Because at the end of the day, idle cash sitting in a low interest rate environment like the one we're in right now will never beat inflation. And I know building a $10,000 per year dividend portfolio sounds like a huge and intimidating number, but like everything else that I've shared on this channel, the goal has always been to start somewhere. I didn't begin with a big salary. I started with my $2,700 monthly income, learning how to be consistent and building towards a portfolio that now pays me real tangible income every year. So in today's video, I want to show you how I built mine step by step and how you can start building yours in 2026, even if you're beginning with a small amount. So without further ado, let's dive straight into today's video. Let's go. One thing I've realized over the years is this: dividends don't feel real until you actually see what they can pay for in your life. And for me, it started really small. My first few payouts were like enough for a Grab ride, a meal, nothing special. But as I kept investing month after month, even with a small salary, it slowly grew into something meaningful. Of course, along the way, I had my doubts as well. Dividends feel so tiny at the beginning, but I stayed the course and kept building. And then something shifted. Mid this year, I shared in this video, my dividends now cover my monthly fixed expenses with extra to spare. And next year, it will also cover my entire annual insurance premiums. That's when it hit me. This isn't about trying to live off the dividends. It's about reaching a point where parts of your life quietly pays for themselves. Even if the amount isn't huge, that feeling of stability was a game changer for me. Knowing that my monthly bills are covered, knowing that my annual insurance premiums are taken care of. So when I talk about building a 10K per year dividend portfolio, it's because I've experienced how real and practical it can be, even for someone who started on a $2,700 salary. Before we go into the numbers and the strategy, there's something that most of us don't realize. Having the right mindset is what actually allows us to stay the course. The stock market moves in cycles. Prices go up and prices come down. And unless there are real fundamental issues with the company, you have to be okay with that volatility. Because if you're here for the dividends long term, the day-to-day price movements is just part of the journey. And I know some of you will say, but Demi, what if my capital drops? Then how? Let me give you a real example from my own journey. I started investing in Mapletree Pan Asia Commercial Trust back in July 2023. Back then, the prices was around $1.60. Fast forward to February 2024, it dropped to $1.32. And then today, it's around $1.45 last I checked. If I had panicked at $1.32, I would have sold at a loss and missed the bigger picture. But because I kept investing gradually, month after month, my average cost today is $1.40. And over the 2 years, I've received $987 in dividends alone. Plus, I reinvested those dividends as well. And those dividends have now grown too. This is why mindset matters. You're not building a dividend portfolio for the next month or next quarter. You are if you have a huge lump sum sitting in the bank, but you're building it for stability years down the road. If you can stay calm during the dips, keep investing during the boring months and trust the process, that's how your portfolio grows into something meaningful. I'm not saying to buy Mapletree Pan Asia Commercial Trust here. This is just an example from my own journey investing in dividend stocks. I'll share with you how I picked the ones that I have in my portfolio a little bit later. But start with a realistic income target. $10,000 per year in dividends can be that big long-term goal. But if you're just getting things started in 2026, it doesn't need to begin there. Start small, start with something that you can actually feel. For example, aiming for $500 in dividends by December next year. It works out to be about $40 a month, enough to cover things like your Netflix subscription, your YouTube premium, just small pockets of your life that quietly pays for themselves with your dividend investment. And with a 5% yield, you need around $10,000 invested to reach that $500 a year mark. It's achievable, it's measurable, and it builds your confidence without overwhelming you. When you start with a realistic target, you give yourself the space to grow into your bigger goals later on. So the question, how I started with my under $3,000 salary as a fresh graduate. Back in 2023, when I first started investing, my salary was this amount. I'll put it on screen. So I wasn't investing big amounts. It was literally a few $100s each time, whenever I had room in my budget. But that was how the portfolio grew, slowly, steadily and alongside my monthly savings. As I show you this list, it's not a recommendation to buy anything. You see any familiar names? Fraser Centrepoint Trust at $2.15, Mapletree Pan Asia Commercial Trust at $1.37, Capital Land Integrated Commercial Trust at $1.96 and $2.05. To buy Singapore stocks, the minimum quantity is one lot, which is 100 shares. So one lot usually costs anywhere between $150 to $250, depending on the stock that you're buying. What I used to do is to save 50 to 60% of my salary for about 2 months or so. Then I buy 1,000 shares at a time. Not because I was trying to time the market, but because buying in larger chunks helped me to keep costs low instead of paying fees every single month. And as a new user, we have 1 year commission-free trades in the Singapore stock market. So I was basically paying 99 cents per order for platform fees, or 0.03% of the traded value, and exchange-related fees still apply. And that's also why I didn't use a CDP link broker at the start. I was investing in small amounts and paying $20 over in fees per trade just didn't make sense for me back then. This was how I began: small amounts, consistent savings, and making the cost structure work for my income level at that point of time. So how did I pick whatever individual stocks that I have in my portfolio today? When I first started, I was honestly just as confused as many of you watching this today. Where do we even begin? What stock is good, or what should we even be looking out for? I had experience with managed portfolios, but the problem was they sometimes included companies that I do not actually believe in. And if I don't understand the business, it's very hard for me to stay invested for the long term. So the only way was to build my own portfolio, one company at a time. And you've probably heard me say this a lot. You cannot just invest into something because someone else is doing it. Because when the price drops 20% due to market conditions or interest rate fears or some news that you see on Straits Times, you won't have the conviction to hold that particular stock. And that's when panic selling actually happens. I had to learn how to do my own research, but what really helped me early on was Moomoo's research tool, because everything is in one place. And you've heard me say this a lot of time. The learn section, I literally started by typing in Dividend into the search bar, and all related topics will show up. And this became the foundation of my understanding. The chapter on dividend stocks, how to invest, it explains dividend yield, what it actually means, the risk of chasing high yield stocks only, and how to think about sustainability. And from there, it links to an article which is new, Best 10 Singapore Dividend Stocks, which gives a clearer idea of what stable income-focused company typically look like. I also used a managed portfolio and the STI index as reference points, just to see which strong, stable company appear across multiple sources. From there, I narrowed down into the sectors I personally believe in and started picking 2 to 3 stocks to begin with. You don't need 10 or 20 stocks, just pick a few to start. And you guys know by now, I love shopping mall REITs. Take Capital Land Integrated Commercial Trust as an example. They own malls like Raffles City, Junction 8, Plaza Sing, and several business parks. Every time I visit these malls, they're crowded. Most units are rented out to brands that we all know of, and there's just something about physically being in a mall that online shopping cannot replace. That's why I invest in what I can understand. If I can walk into a property, see people using it, and feel confident about its long-term demand, it gives me the conviction to stay invested even when the prices move. And that's the mindset I have when picking REITs. Choose businesses I understand and that I believe will still be relevant in a couple of years. Moomoo pulls together all the news and company-related information as well. Things like dividend history, financial details, and the latest news and announcements, and so much more, making the research process a lot easier because everything is consolidated on one platform alone. I'm still actively growing my dividend portfolio on Moomoo's platform. If you're a new user to Moomoo or have not deposited before, there is an exclusive deal. Get up to $1,315 rewards signing up through my link or search for special deposit in the app and apply the code Demi88. You also receive that same 1 year commission-free trades in the Singapore stock market. Platform and exchange-related fees will still apply. More details I'll leave down in the description box below, but if you are just starting out, Moomoo is a great platform to consider. We all start somewhere, but keep this in mind, diversification. When you first start, it's hard to diversify because your capital is small. You might afford only one REIT, one stock, or one ETF, and that's normal. As your portfolio grows, diversify gradually. Not because you need 20 stocks, you don't. Even my portfolio today, it comprises of maybe 10 stocks, but because you want a mix that lets you sleep at night. For me, alongside that dividend portfolio, I'm also building my S&P 500 index fund ETF portfolio. This part is automated. I dollar cost average every month, and because it holds 500 of the biggest US companies, the diversification is built in already. So the idea is simple. Start with what you can afford, build consistently, and diversify as you grow. You don't need everything on day one, you just need momentum. So if there's one thing I hope you take away from today's video, is that you don't need a big salary, a huge lump sum, or the perfect timing to start building your dividend portfolio. I began with my $2,700 a month income, buying a few $100s at a time, slowly growing my confidence and my portfolio side by side. And over the years, those tiny, almost unnoticeable steps turn into something meaningful, something that now covers my monthly fixed expenses and even my annual insurance premiums. Your journey might start differently, your amount might be smaller, and your pace might be slower, but that doesn't make it any less different from mine. What matters is that you start and you stay consistent long enough for it to matter. Make sure to subscribe, follow along, because in the next video, I'll be breaking down my entire dividend portfolio as we wrap up the year. Till then, I hope this video was useful for you, and if you have any questions, pop it down in the comment section below, or you can join my Telegram community over here. As usual, have an amazing week ahead, and I'll catch you guys in my next one. Bye-bye.